Good early evening to everybody. Welcome to the Coach's Box. Ray Halbrook, owner of Livestream STL here. Just wanting to say hey, and just wanted to jump right in here right away. And we've got our wonderful panel of folks here, and I'll bring them in here right now. And guys, we've got a big group today. We've got our normals here, Mr. Miller, Mr. Coach Jarvis, Coach Miller, Coach Blair. I also have Matt Shee. We've got a couple of new faces here. We've got I've got Chris Nimmo from the Warrensburg Tigers, basketball coach from Warrensburg, and also Ben Elick from the Lady Lutheran South Lady Lancers. And guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, just fine. Thank you. Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I see Mr. Shooty down on my bottom here. And Matt, you're going to go ahead and just kind of MC from here on out and take her away, my friend.
You stole my introductions, Raymond.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, production value, we're good. We're good.
We'll work on that next week.
We can take up to 100 guests here with our jolly little program. I doubt we'll ever get to that point, maybe 80 or something like that. We've gone from one guest last week. We've got two this week. So Chris Nimmo's with us. Chris is the head coach at Warrensburg High School, and he is also the boys basketball team. He's the vice president of the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association Exec Board, and he's the president of the National High School Basketball Coaches Association. And then Ben Elick is with us. He's in the white sweatshirt. Head coach at Lutheran South for the girls team, as Ray mentioned. He's also the director of Next Level Basketball and Sports. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So, gentlemen, welcome to the program. In advance, we can say we need to get the legal part out of the way. Anything that happens to you because of your job or with your jobs because of this show is in no way the responsibility of Livestream STL.
That is correct. There's our disclaimer.
Thank you. That are here with you. We've got three segments tonight. We'll open up with a little bit of follow-up from last week when we last met. We were hoping to get back to school this year at some point, but none of us, I think, really thought that was going to happen. And then over the last few days, I believe it was Friday, we got the word that school's officially closed for the rest of the year. So let's start with Jason and Coach Jarvis and Coach Blair. Both of you there at Herculaneum High School. What's been the reaction from the students that you've heard from over there?
Well, with a lot of the seniors, it's been just some disappointment. They're missing a lot of things you do as a senior. I mean, you get to graduation's up in the air. We're not sure what they're going to do with that. They didn't get to have their prom. They didn't get to play spring sports. There's a lot of things there. So some kids that are distraught about that stuff.
From hearing from a couple of kids around it, from the basketball team as well and the track team, there's just a lot of discouraged kids, especially those seniors, that didn't get an opportunity to maybe finish out their careers in their selective sports. And, it's a tough situation all around. I think the biggest thing about it is there really is no answer. There is really no, what do we do from here? Where do we go from here? Really, we're just sort of kind of at a standpoint here, a standstill. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm hearing from a lot of the kids is they just don't know what to expect going forward. So they're trying to make the best of what they got in front of them and hope for some good news here down the stretch, maybe with the possibility of having a graduation later on down the road and something of some sort, and maybe a possibility of having prom or something. So I know I just feel for those seniors and the opportunity that they missed out on. But a lot of them are putting their best foot forward and making the most of it.
I think a lot of them are finding out that they actually like school and they and that they miss it. I miss seeing my kids at school, and many that I've talked to over the internet and things that they miss coming to school.
Mm-hmm. Chris Nimmo, what's it been like up at Warrensburg for you guys?
Much the same. I have three kids of my own, and my house has never been smaller. I'll say that with them all home 24/7 and that, and much the same. It's the unknown. What's going to happen? I know that we always do graduation at the college here in Warrensburg, and they have made the claim that they're going to they're not going to close anything down because they are hoping that our local kids can graduate on their campus, but who knows when that'll be or what that'll look like.
Right. And Ben, Coach Elick, how's it at Lutheran South?
Yeah, we're kind of we're in that same boat, man. I really feel bad for our baseball team. They lost to Borgia in the 7th inning last year, and some of those kids, Borgia goes on win state title, and some of those kids were looking for redemption. We got a set of twins that are committed to Arkansas State, and they were looking forward to getting to play their final season. And so, yeah, I think it's disappointment sitting in. I think Coach Jarvis put it right, man. I think the kids realize they like school as much as they want to complain about it. And, the good thing with us, we're small enough. Our graduation is going to be on the football field. They're talking about, if we can do stuff in May, doing an alternate prom in our gym, kind of going back to old school style, right? Have the dance in the gym. And so we're fortunate. Our administration's working hard to try to give the seniors some of these things that they're missing out on. But yeah, you just feel for the kids. I mean, I've got a bunch of basketball kids that are multi-sport athletes that, Savannah Schmidt, our 6-foot post is, she's a phenomenal track athlete, and she doesn't get a chance to finish out her track career. So I think the kids are sad. Luckily for us, and I know you guys kind of are the same way, we've got a tight-knit community. So they're relying on each other. They're relying on faith and those things to get us through. So.
And Coach Miller, you've got the perspective of teaching at one school and coaching at another. And you had a senior-laden group there at Pius this year with the boys basketball team, but you've also got kids you're connected with at Grandview. What's been the reaction that you've been seeing?
Well, I think for the most part, everybody's disappointed, and everybody's hit on it about all the things that the kids are missing, whether it's prom, whether it's graduation. Spring sports is obviously a huge one. We got a lot of kids who are really looking forward to having that opportunity to do some stuff this spring and to really have a good showing of themselves and maybe possibly go on to the next level. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. The thing that I keep trying to tell kids or parents or other teachers is just, you got to be positive and look at the positives on this. Coach Nimmo hit it right. You're there with your family, you have to be there, so you might as well take advantage of those opportunities, because normally we wouldn't have that opportunity to spend so much time with our kids or with our families. And just, we're fortunate in comparison to other people who don't have those opportunities. So it's, we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. We don't know what the summer is going to look like. But at the same time, it's easy to be real negative with everything. The most important thing is just to be positive. That's kind of what I've been trying to tell the kids and parents and people like that.
Yeah, and as a school administrator, I was in a meeting today, St. Pius X, and what do? We'd like to have graduation, but we don't know when that's possible. We'd like to do prom, but we don't know when that's possible. Baccalaureate, we don't know when that's possible. We've got 3 student athletes that are now committed to play ball in college next year that we didn't get a chance to do a signing ceremony for. We usually do like the photo and bring the parents in and the banner and everything like that. And, one half crazy notion that might come to fruition, maybe we just do a baccalaureate prom graduation extravaganza and just put them all together, and we'll get Coach Miller will get you there in like a sequin tuxedo, and you can kind of end things for us, maybe. First question from the audience.
Tuxedo T-shirt.
Well, that suits you well with the house you're in right there. The first question in the crowd is, why is Coach Miller in an 18th century farmhouse right now? It's social distancing, not Unabomber mode. So we'll talk about home decor maybe in segment 3. But we got Coach Nimmo, we got Coach Elick here, and one of the things we had wanted to talk about with these gentlemen was the possibility of the state of Missouri at the high school level adding the shot next. And I believe I know you gentlemen can speak to it more than I can. Certainly, I know a number of states' high school associations do have it. We don't as of yet. We've got 5 coaches here. I think we're going to get a myriad of opinions, but Chris, we're going to start with you, if that's all right. And
sure.
What you've seen, big picture wise, What are your thoughts about this potential movement to a shot clock in the state of Missouri?
I believe that my numbers are correct. There are 8 states who had the shot clock as of this year. Washington, New York, North Dakota. I'm going to not remember all of them. And I know that Arkansas in their big class is adding the shot clock for next year. I thought I would see it this is my 27th year. I thought for sure before I retire that I would see it. And I up probably until a month or so ago, I still thought that. I don't know with all this that's going on with our economy if we're that close to it. I think it's long overdue. I know in some of my positions, I've been able to talk to coaches from around the country, and I know that anyone I've talked to from those 8 states that have the shot clock, they would never go back. I think that's pretty telling. That's for the most part, people I'm talking to are the state coaching leaders for basketball within those states, and I'm definitely a fan of it. I wish it would have been a long time ago.
Got it. And what are they seeing typically? 30-second shot clock, 35, or is it a mere differences?
A little bit of a difference, but 35 seems to be more standard right now than 30. But there's a lot of people who coach in college who they go and play in Canada or they go play in Europe, and they're used to the shot clock, and they go with the 24-second shot clock with the FIBA rules, and they love that. That rarely have I talked to a college coach who, they take a trip out of the country under FIBA rules who hasn't enjoyed the 24 seconds. That, those that want to control tempo can still control tempo with the shot clock. It just looks a little different. And my argument for it is that it's sure a heck of a lot easier to convince kids to play defense for 30 or 35 seconds than somebody that's going to be deliberate for minutes at a time.
Got it. Coach Elick, what are your thoughts about adding the shot clock?
Okay, so this is coming from a guy that if you're playing zone and we've got a lead late in the fourth quarter, I'm going to hold the ball and pull you out of the zone and make you come guard. I'm absolutely for it. I think that one of the most wrongly called rules in the game of basketball right now is the 6 foot closely guarded. Most officials want you to be within arm's length. For most girls who are 5'5" to 5'9" you're talking about 3 feet when you're an arm's length away. And sometimes for girls, you're going to get beat if you're that close. And so I get frustrated with officials that don't call that rule correctly. And so now my thought is if we had a shot clock, then, get rid of that rule. And like Coach Nimmo said, get the kids to buy in to play defense for 30 or 35 seconds team wise and use that. So yeah, I like the offensive aspect of it. I was disappointed that 2 of the better teams in the state in Rolla and Jeff City on the girls' side played a 30-26 game early in the year. I mean, that's bad for basketball. People don't want to see that. They don't want to see those, bloodbath 2 and 3 minute offensive possessions and those types of games. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think that, I think that's it's gonna bring a new element to coaching with that. And I'm sitting here listening. I'm going to give a shout out to my leading returning scorer, Emma Pollitt. She was texting me when you put the topic on, and she said, "Coach, I really want the shot clock." So there's a player's perspective. So I think some of the players would like playing for it too.
Gotcha. Let's go to Coach Jarvis. What do you think?
I don't care either way, really. If they bring it in, I'll adapt to it. At a school like Herky or other small schools, what you're going to have is it's going to be a problem to find someone that can actually run the shot clock properly and that it be ran properly during the game. And that's the thing that I worry about the most when it comes to a lot of schools. Heck, a lot of schools that struggle to get people to work the gate. So, I mean, now you're going to add the shot clock too and the scorekeeper and all that. That's the only downfall I see of it. Basketball-wise, I think, heck, I don't know that there's too many possessions that we had it more than 35 seconds before we shot. So I don't think that's going to change a whole lot on our end. We did have some games where we held the ball, but more likely than not, it would probably work in our favor.
Coach Blair?
You know, I believe I'm for it, just to speed up the game. But, I'm going to take a big prevalence of, I'm the offensive kind of guy that talks a lot about, running and gunning and throwing up the 3-point shot. And so, I'm a kind of a bystander when it comes to that from the rest of these group of guys in here. But, I think that the biggest thing for me as a coach is it changes my coaching philosophy. It changes everything that you do. I think that's going to be the biggest thing from a coaching standpoint, from my standpoint anyway, that, might change my coaching philosophy around it, but I'm definitely for it. I think it's a good thing for the game of basketball. It makes kids want to play, hopefully a little bit more defense, and makes them want to buy into that defensive philosophy that a lot of kids you do not see doing at any level anymore. So I think that's the key thing, is hopefully get them to buy into the defensive philosophy.
Gotcha. And Coach Miller?
Well, I'm not the kind of guy who'd ever hold the ball. But it's kind of one of those things. It really doesn't matter one way or another. If we have it. If we don't, we don't. I'm kind of, with some of what's just kind of picking at some of you guys with what you said. If we have it, it's something that I'm going to adapt to. There's some things that I'll have to change, obviously, or have to adjust on how I coach. At the same time, I think one of the things that it's definitely going to be stressed in the event that we do have it is I can maybe get kids to buy into playing defense for a shorter period of time, hard. And then we have to really make sure we emphasize rebounding, because playing defense and getting someone to take a shot and then us not getting the rebound is, kind of counterproductive, because now the shot clock starts all over. So that's something that we would have to obviously make sure that we continuously push, which I know everybody says they emphasize rebounding or you drill it. It's just one of the things I think overall now it becomes, it's probably going to be something that's maybe broken down maybe a little more analytically on how you rebound, whether you're flooding the zone or flooding the weak side, or where you put people, even if you're playing man or playing zone. But, if we don't have it, it's something that, I'll continue to, just like Coach Elick said, if you're playing a zone and it's the fourth quarter and you're sitting back and we have a lead, I want you to come out and play, and then we're going to run our offense. And so you just packing it in and hoping that, get stops like that. So, and I think it could be good for the game. The thing I always kind of wonder about is at the smaller schools at those levels. Coach Jarvis hit on it. How do you fund it? Who runs it? Getting people who know how to do it. And then obviously when you're talking about, the talent level in smaller schools, which I've coached at, I kind of wonder about, the 7th and 8th and 9th guy who come off the bench and how they play. But, it's something that everybody will have to adjust to either way. And I think it's something that could be good for the game.
Gotcha. All right. Ray Halbrook, you've watched a lot of basketball the last 2 years. You've seen some fast-paced games. I think we saw a couple get up towards the 90s, but we saw several in the 30s and 40s as well.
Yeah, I said a little bit about this last week, and and it's not because it's just there's to me, I feel like there's too many weak teams that have to adjust to this, number one. Plus you have a lot smaller schools that have to come up with some sort of way to be able to fund the new shot clock and things like that. I was actually talking to a gentleman today out in Canada. They actually have the shot clock. They've had it for 2-3 years, and up in the Ontario area, and they've adapted to it. So I'm like, okay, so I know it can be adapted to. Now, it takes a couple of years. It's going to take a couple of years for for some schools to kind of get used to that if they go to it. I'm not for it, and I'll tell you why. Because I've seen too many games where it's been either a blowout, and you feel for those teams that that are having trouble getting the ball across the half court sometimes because they're being pressed so hard. So does that make me, well, that puts me on the weaker side of being a little bit more compassionate? I don't know. I don't think so. But I think at the same time, there's something to be said also, not just on the weaker teams, but how to facilitate this thing. So you're facilitating this, and I was talking to a friend up in Canada today. Do you train people to basically learn how to do this thing for a short amount of time, and they lose interest, and then you got to go find somebody else? Do you put the shot clock in the referee's hands, where you maybe a remote? Which referee do you put the shot clock in their hands? Who's going to be deemed on that? Could you do it for all three? And because I know that certain games are refereed by two referees. Some of the freshmen, junior high, maybe even some of the JV games. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, coach, but on this thinking coach, but any of the coaches. But there's usually two referees for a JV game, three for a varsity game. Correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with that being said, putting that into perspective, which referee gets the remote? Because I think that would be a better situation to put in the hands of the referee. That way you don't have to have another person on the bench just doing the clock and a shot clock. I mean, that's just a thought on my end, but so there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of just so many questions that I know is going to take a little while for parents, ads, coaches, players to kind of get used to, and it's going to take 2-3 years to really get into that mode that this is forever. You know what I mean?
Coach Nimmo, I want to jump on this real quick. And obviously you've been around a lot of people who've had those conversations about the same issues, like Ray said, who's going to run it and everything. But before we had the pandemic happen, what were some of the ways that the National Federation was kind of, or other states, or what were they kind of doing to curtail some of those issues that we had kind of mentioned, that about the shot clock, of who was running it and things like that? What were some of the ideas that other states had? Well,
the one argument against it, and you guys kind of touched on it, is that you got to pay somebody else to sit at the scores table and run it. Denny Hunt's the executive director of our Missouri Basketball Coaches Association. He swears that his wife, who knows very little about basketball, learned to run it in one weekend and was doing it just fine. And it deals with just watching the officials. But the idea that, the startup cost, yeah, it probably costs $5,000 to put it in your gym, and so forth, but it's going to last for 20 some years. So that cost for a school district really isn't very great. But, paying somebody $35, $50 a night to run it, that's the real cost when you consider how many games that you come about. So that's part of it. And then there's the argument that, one thing I don't like about college basketball is all the stoppage and having to go back to the monitor. I think that just kills the flow of the game a lot of times. Their timeouts are already long enough, and sitting there watching it in person is kind of difficult sometimes when they do all that. That's it. But the cost is a lot of it. And then some people say it takes the strategy away. I'll give the argument against that. I think it will make us better coaches because there's more that we're going to have to coach to and be prepared for. So from the coaching standpoint, I think it makes us better. I also think that into the clock scenarios, or players have to make plays. And as coaches, we want our players to make plays. And with the shot clock, they're going to have to. But it opens up so many different alternatives that we really, as high school coaches, don't spend a lot of time on because they really happen once or twice a game, whereas we got to focus on the things that happen often. But if we did have the shot clock, we would have to change our approach. There's more situational coaching aspects that would have to touch on pretty much every day.
Well, do you think it would change to where we would have more just set plays? Like if you, to instead of having, obviously I'm a continuity offense kind of guy, but I mean, other coaches, they run multiple sets. I'm kind of wondering sometimes if my kids can't run maybe more than 2 sets, what do you think that does to that? I mean, obviously it's going to make us better coaches or we're going to die out and not be able to do it. But, what is that, does that really change it on that level?
Absolutely. We're going to have end of clock scenarios that we come up with, but it's on both sides of the ball. It's also defense. I mean, it gives you a chance into the clock defense. You can switch into your zone or you can go from zone to man and just to give different looks. So that's where I'm coming from with making us better coaches. I just think it brings an exciting aspect to the game. I'm not one of them, though, that thinks that it necessarily leads to higher scoring games, although the one game that was mentioned that was 26-32 or whatever, that might still happen. It probably leads to some, for some purists, it probably leads to more contested shots, but that's what happens at the end of the shot clock anyway, at all levels. But
do you think that it would, because generally speaking, if a better team gets more possessions, they're going to have a chance to score more, right? Do you think it eliminates, I don't know what you guys think, the chance for the little guy to upset the Giants, the David to beat the Goliath? Does that eliminate that opportunity with the shot clock?
I just think with college basketball, you see David beating Goliath all the time.
True.
And I think what we're coming to talk about in our next segment, the 3-point line, that has a lot to do with it. I still think if, kids get used to the 30, 35 seconds, whatever would be decided upon, and the team that's going to run it right to the end of the shot clock, the kids playing defense are still going to get bored. Let's play faster. And I don't think it would make as much of a difference other than a lot of times near the end of quarters, and it give you a chance. You can go 2 for 1.
Sure.
And I just think it opens up a lot of things that we don't have the aspect of. And the whole idea, USA high school basketball is really the only large basketball organization in the world that does not have a shot clock of any sort, other than the states who have chosen to add it. One argument against it from our standpoint with Missouri is that we lose our vote with the National Federation. So any kind of rule proposals that come about, we wouldn't be able to vote upon. And that's something that Mitch, I know at this point in time, is not willing to do. And I understand that aspect completely.
And I think I remember last Thursday night, Ray, when you had those 2 guys on where you kind of vaguely talked about this subject. And one of them had said, maybe taking into consideration that you got a team that has, 2 great players playing against a team that maybe doesn't have that standout player, but has a good bunch of guys that can handle the basketball or do whatever. You got a team that has one solid guy, takes over the game, can take over the possession every single time and can score. I think that says a lot. Sometimes I know they were talking about that, and there was some comments posted on there about that. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I think Coach Nimmo put it right earlier. I think he said that right. Players are going to make plays. And I think into quarters, we all probably want the ball in our best players' hands, our best opportunity to score when the clock's running down, right? And I'm guessing I like the strategy and the ideas behind it, like what do you do when it hits 10 or 8 on the shot clock or when things get broken down?
Well, I'd make the argument if you have that 1 or 2 good players, taking them away for 30 seconds is probably easier than taking away from a possession that does not have an end point.
True.
Agreed.
As a fan and as somebody that broadcast about a dozen games this year, I do know that it's obvious it's something that doesn't always get worked on in practice, because I'd see end of quarter or end of half scenarios where with 12 or 15 seconds left, early on, I'd wonder what was going to happen. And by my 5th or 6th game, I knew what was going to happen. Whoever had the ball was going to dribble it out and then jack up a shot that was ill-advised with a second left. There was no offense hardly ever run on those end of game scenarios. And I think some of that comes from the fact that you don't practice against a shot clock typically. And some of it was just hero ball. The kids wanting to just, have that sort of scenario going. But I'm in favor of it. I don't really have a particular reason why. I do think it'll lead to a little more scoring. I do think it'll give some smaller teams maybe a chance because there were sometimes we'd go into a gym, Ray and I would, and do a game, and we knew the game was over really before it even began.
Right.
I think the shot clock maybe at least gives them a puncher's chance if somebody gets hot. And obviously there's exceptions. We've got a team in this area that their girls team hasn't won in 3 years. I don't know that this is going to help them. 0-71 the last 3 years. I just double checked that. Teams running it up on them, and I don't know if the shot clock's going to make that worse or better. But it's something I know our athletic director Tilden Watson is clocked in and has been watching. And I know one of the things he's got to think about, and I think probably the first thing he has to think about as an AD is where do I fit this into my budget? Because for us, that budget is a big deal, and for a lot of our small schools that most of us are with, it's going to be a big deal that we can plan for down the road. But it's not a cheap one. So, Ray, I'm going to kick it over to you. Do we need to take a break at this point, or
we do, and we'll kick it off right here, and we'll be right back.
What you guys do for Jefferson County sports, it doesn't go unnoticed by the coaches in all sports.
Yeah,
all sports. That. I have a lot of friends that are head, basketball coaches, and I've been, of course, around Jefferson County all my life and followed all kinds of sports even before I got into the coaching. So what you guys do to help promote it with the kids is unbelievable, and we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
For you guys to take your time and what you do is awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, we try, we work hard, and we think they deserve it. The kids deserve to be able to be seen, and if we can turn out kids in the community to better them, get them in college, and make them a better citizen, that's the key.
This live stream SDL has been a huge asset for Jefferson County sports, in my opinion. I mean, getting these athletes the camaraderie that they're out there and people can see them. I mean, to be honest with you, I got a call from a coach yesterday about one of my athletes that said that they saw some of her games on live stream SDL.
Awesome.
So, I mean, that right there instilled to me that this is important. This is important for those kids. And so, I think it's great, and I wish you guys the best. And if you're out there and you want to sponsor, this is a great opportunity for kids to support kids of our local kids and get them support and get them acknowledgement out there, because we have a lot of great athletes in this county.
We appreciate that. And at the end of the day, our mission is much the same as your missions, coaches, to help shine a light on these kids. And get them exposure and get their name out there and help them. And if they can advance, they're better off, we're better off as a community, and that's why we're here.
And we are back here. We wanted to remind you guys of our show coming up Thursday at 7 o'clock, Main Street Sports with Jeff Whitener and Ray Halbrook. We're going to have the towel guy from the St. Louis Blues on, along with Jeremy Boyer, who is the organist for the St. Louis Blues. So it should be a pretty cool show. And also, don't forget, we are now on the TKDS Sports Network on Roku. And if you're interested in being a part of that and getting our Roku channel, you can do that. It's $4.99 a month. Let me throw up the website here, videos.tkdssports.com. That will take you to the TKDS Sports Network, and you can sign up for our Roku channel, which would bring it right straight on your big screen, and always a good little feature to have for the sports fan, even though we don't have sports right now, but we will here shortly. And lastly, we want to tell you about one of our main sponsor tonight, Vindell Services LLC and Bada Bing Classics. Give them a call, 636-638-2500, located at 301 South Adams Street in Festus, Missouri. Vindell Services Bada Bing Classics, a full automotive repair, collision, and classic car restoration shop. 15% discount on any repair with free pickup and delivery on your car. Again, if you mention Livestream STL, you will get a free disinfectant along with your vehicle. So check them out. Vindell Services LLC and Bada Bing Classics. All right, guys, we're going to jump right back into our second segment here, and that is we can finish up, I guess, if we want to. We did have a couple of questions on the Facebook waves. If you want to maybe mention that there, Matt, I'll let you go ahead and take it from here on out.
Well, Steve Risler chimed in and said, let's do a 24-second shot clock. If it was going to be put in and they put it up to a vote, is there a certain time frame that you'd like to see? 24, 30, 35, 18, 15?
10.
You know, Chris, what do you think would happen there from a national perspective? What would the thought process be, you think?
All the talk I've heard, it would start at 35. Good or bad. I think in a way that makes sense. It's 5 seconds longer than the college. Personally, I'd just soon jump in and have it be 30, but I would rather have it than not. So if it's 35, I'd jump all over it.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, I agree. I like 35.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I agree. I think 35 is a good number.
Riley, you guys shoot threes like every 15 seconds, so you guys could go 20 and be good still.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Coach Miller, what do you think? 30, 24? Would you have a preference?
75. 75. No, I think 30. I think 35 is a great. I think it's a great start. It's a great number. You don't really want to go to less than that, probably 30 maybe, but 35 is pretty good.
Jason, Coach Jarvis, what do you think?
I'll take 35. I wouldn't want to go any lower than that. And one of the things I've seen some people, I don't know if it was on this post, but on another thing that I read about was, if we have kids that are good enough to play in college, they're going to have to use the shot clock there. And we're not preparing them if we don't have it here. So, that's an argument for the clock.
Well, I'm going to pivot off of that into a couple subjects that our guests can really speak to. Ben, I'm going to start with you, but this is something I think everybody can chime in on. Summer ball. I think there's a lot of questions. Will we even have it this year? Certainly, I have a 7th grader, and been getting some notifications had been getting notifications up until early March about opportunities to maybe try out for some teams, do some things, and now everything's on hold. Ben, you've got next level basketball and sports, and what's the sense you're getting about that?
So it's funny you said that. We just decided we're going to meet Friday about it. I got to start with saying, man, I'm heartbroken about losing the spring. For our feeder kids and in our program, we're a club team, but it's feeder kids. And Riley's kids are involved with our program, and it's at relationships with those next. I mean, every kid on my varsity team came through our feeder schools and our feeder program. So you really get that. It's kind of like, that spring is that refresh, that restart chance with the younger kids, and they're all excited to get in the gym. And so losing that, I'm heartbroken for those kids. And I just am, because our girls get good relationships built with the feeder kids too. And I know our kids are missing out on that relationship building. So what we know right now, what we've kind of heard is that, right now you can't have any gatherings more than 10. What we've heard is that they're going to stair step it up. And so if they go to 50, then we could probably start workouts, right? If they get up to 250 or 500, then we could probably still have events. But the main thing is we've got to be able to, and Matt, this from being on the administrative side, we've got to be able to have our administrations let us back on campus, because that's where we build it, is using the facilities. And so right now we're planning on our summer schedule. I know that Misha is going through and talking about some scenarios, and if they remove the contact day from us, then maybe we do stuff in July too versus just June. We don't like to compete with that AU stuff that's going on, but since we lost the spring, maybe we're just working and getting those kids that are, your fifth, sixth, seventh kid better. If the other kids are out playing the AU circuit. So yeah, it's a big, it's a big question mark for us. And we're going to try to get a plan of action moving forward on Friday with all of us sitting down. So
it's tough. And one of the things that we look at our school, because I help run the summer camps there, is the lost revenue that comes from that. And there's that chunk of change. It's not a significant chunk of change, but it can be for some programs that helps maybe buy some upgraded equipment or new equipment and things like that. So for the youth camps, and plus an opportunity for kids to come in and see what your program's about and everything like that. So Coach Nimmo, what is your thoughts about that?
It's the big unknown. I'll be honest, I spent less time planning our summer than I ever have, because I don't know. I hope it's something rather than nothing. Ben talked about July. If it's just July, that's fine. We're in a situation, we have a lot of football kids too, and typically I get the kids in June and our football coach gets them in July. It may be something that we have to share. But one thing we all need to be aware of is that our kids are used to doing stuff this time of year. We all hope that our kids are out and active as they can be while still, practicing social distancing, and that there are more kids, I think, playing driveway basketball than there have been in years. But the conditioning standpoint is not what it's typically at this point of time and so forth. That's something as coaches we need to be aware of, that we can't do too much too soon because our kids are out of shape. So it's, I sure hope we get to do something. I'm not as positive about that as I wish I was.
So Coach Miller, and definitely want to get everybody's perspective on this, but especially for you and knowing our program, the St. Pius program, the way I do, big transition year for you, losing so many seniors from a 20-win team. Probably important for those kids to get the new kids and the ones coming up into the varsity opportunities to get as many touches as possible. How much is this hurting what you're able to do with those guys?
I mean, you just kind of said it all right there. Because we got a lot of spots we got to fill, losing 5 seniors, and really bringing back a couple of guys who had a lot of varsity experience, and then trying to really get some other guys in. But at the same time, like Coach Nimmo said, we tend, with having football and everything, I tend to have the basketball kids in June. July ends up being for football. And, hopefully things get kind of worked out, on a level with the state and Misha and everybody else. And everybody just tells us when we can get back in. If we don't have an off season, I know it's going to be pretty significant for us. And, but it's not just going to be for us. It's going to be for everybody too. So we'll just have to do the best we can with what's given to us. And, hopefully things get worked out and this all kind of goes away.
And for the Herculaneum coaches, I know both of you, Riley, you've lost several seniors this year, but you've got some strong nucleus kids coming back. And Jason, you lost a primary scorer, so both of you will be in kind of transition next year. So how much is this hurting you guys, not knowing when you'll be able to get a ball in everybody's hands and just kind of control what they're doing a little bit?
Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, well, I spoke about this on a show the other day when we were on here about I did the weight room in the spring, and I got a lot of kids that all they play is basketball. And last year they were working every day in the spring, and we're lifting weights, and then they go upstairs and get 500 shots up or whatever. And we're missing that right now. And I lost Duncan, a primary scorer, and I lost some key guys, but I got a lot coming back, which is going to help a little bit. But I got to figure out who those other guys are going to be. And with no summer, that's going to be kind of tough. I hope they are out in the driveway playing. It's funny that you say that, because I went to Walmart the other day to get some essentials, and while I was there, I was going to pick up a net for our driveway basketball goal, and they were out of nets.
Mm-hmm.
They'd sold all of them. I said, well, I hope you sold them all to Herky, but
right.
I had a student reach out to me, and we were chatting, and he said, one of the things I really miss is they had really good pickup games up at the Y in Festus, and so many of the local kids. And we saw this, Ray, you and I saw this several times at games we broadcast, but coaches, you guys know how this is too, is we would so often see these really competitive games, and then the guys just getting together and chatting and good friends these friendships that have been forged at the gym in the off season, and we're missing out on that too. And I had a junior contact me today, and she said she's in a happy position. She's got multiple colleges recruiting her for a sport, and she's wanting to start making some decisions. She's like, I can't make a decision until I go to a campus. When do you think I can visit college campuses again? I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea what to tell her. And the colleges, when I ask them, they have no idea. And they're really kind of scrambling, trying to figure these things out. We had a senior just commit to a school to play football. He's never been to the campus. Because his visit was supposed to take place 4 days after the quarantine started on that campus. So he's taken a pretty significant step and a leap of faith that this is going to work out. And there's only so much those video reviews and, on a virtual campus tour and stuff like that can do. But I want to pivot a little bit as well. Coach Nimmo, one of the things we've touched on in the background on the show a couple of times, and something we're going to focus on in the weeks ahead, the refereeing has come up a lot of times when the microphones are off more than when the microphones are on. But refereeing is certainly a subject that we've discussed. And one of my big things is the shortage of officials, not just here in the Missouri area, but nationwide. Is that something that's being addressed in those coaches associations that you're with, and what are their thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a nationwide concern. And I will tell you, we've talked about the shot clock and everything else. I think that's the biggest concern that we should all have for our game. Rarely do I go to a game when there are three officials. If there are three officials, it seems like they're all over 40, which you think about the future, and those guys are going to retire. And who's taking their place? I do think as coaches, we kind of have an obligation that we need to try to help recruit some of our players to be officials. I will say I officiated some in college, and it's the best part-time job a college student can have. You get to kind of pick your nights. Yes, you got to do it in advance, but you're going to make $50 to $100 a night and work as many nights as really you want. But it's definitely a concern. I do wonder, going to three officials, if that's been a little bit of a reason that there's some older people, because some younger guys maybe were blocked from being able to get some of the top games because some of the guys were able to stay in longer than they would have been if they were working as a two-man crew. But something has to be done. I know that Mish is concerned about that. And like I said, it's a nationwide concern as well.
How much of it do you think? What's the biggest reason for the dearth? Is it just is it some of the abuse that some of the refs have to take from the fans and the parents, especially? Is it the pay's just not good enough to draw people out? Is it a combination of those things? What do you think the biggest reasons are for the shortage?
I think it's the fans. I think that's the biggest thing, and to an extent, I think it's probably some coaches.
None of the guys in this group, of course.
No, but there's that correlation. The more dramatic the coach is on the sideline, the worse the fans are a lot of times too.
Matt, just to tell you something that we're trying to do. So Josh Spool, who's at Webster, and Dusty Weiskopf, who's at Zumwalt North, are partners with Next Level. And we're working on trying to get some clinics going together where we can pair seasoned officials with young high school and college age kids. With Next Level, we let a lot of high school kids do our lower level, like 3rd, 4th grade girls stuff. And I mean, Riley's got Paige Fowler, who referees a ton of games for us. I've got Grace Haas, who plays for me. She and both those kids would be great officials coming into college, coming out of high school into college. And I think we've just got to foster their growth as coaches. And, hopefully in St. Louis, our officials organization is wanting to work and look at that. And that's the thing. We need the older officials to embrace those younger, the next generation, if you will, too. And, Josh and Dusty both officiate. I'm awful at it. I get caught watching. I know that's a weakness, but Josh and Dusty are both good officials. And so they're both really, really trying to push. Because, I mean, we've got 30 people that work for us that aren't patched. And so they want to try to make this connection with MSHA, with St. Louis Officials Association, and try to get some of these younger people patched and doing games. And, I think we need more bridge building like that, too.
Got it. Guy, so you mentioned Paige, who plays for Riley there, and you've got your own player, Chris, Jason, Chris Miller. Do any of you have anybody that's even interested in getting into it? Are you seeing a lack of interest in that, or do you have some people that have said, "I'd like to ref, but I don't, I'm not going to deal with all that."
Jason,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Jason. I think, Jason, you had a kid that refereed for us, if I remember right.
I might have. I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
I have 2 players who graduated a year ago who are both officiating. They did some middle school games, some lower level games. One of them's been doing it for a number of years. I'm just not sure that the whole process, we don't go about it wrong. And Ben, it sounds like you have some good ideas with, pairing young officials with older officials. I think that's great. But I think a lot of the problem is that the hardest games, in my opinion, to call are the middle school games and the lower level games, even some of the rec games, some of our summer league games, because the difference in ability. That something that's a travel that gains an advantage for one player doesn't gain it for another player. So maybe the official lets it go and this and that. I just think that those are the hardest ones to call. Whereas if it's a varsity game, I do think it's easier to call. So I'm not sure we wouldn't be better off having some of our inexperienced officials working with 2 older seasoned officials at the varsity level and so forth. I know as coaches, we probably don't want that, but there's going to be a shortage if something's not done pretty quick.
Well, and Coach, you had mentioned out there in mid-Missouri and in the Warrensburg area that you were seeing a lot of referees around the age of 40 or maybe a little bit older than that. And I think over here in Eastern Missouri, we'd love to see that because I swear Nebuchadnezzar ref 4 or 5 of the games that I here with Ray.
I was going to comment on that too. He said 40s. I said we got a lot of officials that are way past 40, and they do it. There's some of them that are some of our better officials are in their 50s, and so what are we going to do here? Another 4 or 5 years? I mean, we had several get hurt this year and had to end the season before it was even halfway through, and I agree with some of the things that were said. Fans sometimes make it a little harder for people to want to get into it. We've got that I can think of off the top of my head. We had like 5 or 6 younger officials get put into the mix this year that I've seen, and we need more of that. I always when MSHA sends us those things, I try to put it on my social media and tell my kids, hey, this is a way you can make some good money.
Absolutely.
So, well, let's pivot one more time, and then we're going to go to some questions from the crowd. But I think one of the things we'll see was that shot clock we were talking about. If we go to that, we're probably going to see 3-point percentages, and I know the coaches will be delighted to hear this, but I think they're going to actually drop a little bit more than you already see it for some of them. So the 3-point line, obviously a big difference. Maybe we could obviously spend a whole show. We could spend a series of shows, I think, on this. But Riley, your teams love to throw those up quite a bit. Although I noticed Paige was on the Facebook comments here a little bit ago. She said, no, we're a post team now. She was disputing you a little bit there, but what does that do for your coaching as far as just working around that 3-point line? Is it just you got to see what kind of personnel you have and then go from there as far as setting up your game plan, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does change the game a little bit, but at the same point, I mean, if your kids are used to that kind of play and considering that, I mean, I don't think it takes a huge disadvantage to what we do. I think it makes maybe more teams doing kind of that mindset of, hey, we're focusing more on offensive rebounding and taking into consideration, hey, we're going to go try to get 2 or 3 shots up and get better opportunities to get offensive rebounds or whatever. So I don't think that it changes in as much in that sense. I mean, most people out here that know our way we've played 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, we were going down and trying to hit, put 95 shots up a game and 40 of those being threes. So, I mean, it's changed over the last couple of years that we do that, but I mean, it was a huge advantage for us. I mean, we changed our whole philosophy of how Herculean girls basketball team played, and we saw a lot of success out of it. Now that just built on the clientele that I had, but considering, I think it just helped my kids to get in the flow of the game more and learn how to play fast and play smart and just make some good decisions. So I honestly think that, the 3-point line has, I think it makes the kids want to play more, gets them more excited about it. And I think it changes.
Gotcha. Chris Nimmo, what are your thoughts about that? You have been blessed with some 3-point shooters?
Sure. And I think the 3-point line changes our game more and more every year. And I think sometimes shooting percentages went down. I think kids shoot it better now than ever. I think it has to do with we defend it better. I think, just thinking about my team, my defensive philosophy, we don't help one pass away. We're not going to give you that 3. We'll let you shoot a contested layup before we're going to give you a wide open 3. So I think that's been the aspect that with the shooting percentage, that's kind of changed. Those of us that are into analytics a little bit, it's a better shot than that mid-range shot. That's what I grew up shooting, was the mid-range shot. I was fortunate. I was a senior in high school when the 3-point line came up, in our state, and every year it changes the game more and more. And, you just think it's the lack of post play has to do with the 3-point line more than anything, in my estimation. And, you get the biggest kid in the gym who you let him shoot on his own. He's out there shooting threes, good, bad, or whatever. But to me, that's the way that it is.
Chris Miller, you're losing a 3-point shooter that rode that 3-point shot to a college scholarship, and 2 or 3 other guys, depending on the night, that could fill it a little bit. Think of this summer and spring is the opportunity for some of your guys to improve upon that. The guys that you got coming back, but does that change your offense any? The kind of personnel you're going to be having coming back and not having necessarily those weapons?
Well, I mean, it's if kids are outside shooting, which I really hope my guys are outside shooting right now and not playing Call of Duty and becoming the greatest Call of Duty players of all time, we're going to be a lot better off. I agree with what Coach Nimmo said. When I first started coaching, 14, 15 years ago, whatever it's been, it was always, we're going to deny that pass, one pass away, and we're going to keep guys from getting to the bucket. Now I'd almost assume I'm going to chase you off the 3-point line and make you pull up and shoot a mid-range shot, because I'm going to venture a guess to say that kids aren't in the gym, taking 1 or 2 hard dribbles off the 3-point line and pulling up and shooting a 16-foot shot that's worth 2 points. It's just not something the kids are necessarily doing. Not all of them, but some of them. So whenever our philosophy is we want to be tough around the basket, but we don't want to give up give up wide open threes. So it's all about contesting those shots or chasing them off the 3-point line. And if they're going to hit it, they're going to hit a shot they don't generally practice, and it's only going to be worth 2 if they do. So I think that's it's really changed the game to eliminate the mid-range game and the focus on a lot of dribble drive, driving kick, things like that, to where people like me who run the old flex or run it to the elbows, it's something that not a lot of people tend to do, and I understand why, and then I know why we do it or why I have it in, but at the same time I think it's something that if our, like, to answer your question, Matt, if our guys had a normal off season, we'd be putting a lot of time into a lot of 3-point shooting, because I think it's very important, and I think it's a shot that, as Coach Nimmo said, it's something that analytically it's a good shot to shoot nowadays.
Ben, look, what do you think about it? You've probably seen a ton of them, especially at the club level. Yeah, I've seen club games where it seems like there's more threes going up than anything else. So
yeah, we actually had a game this year, a team that we held to, I believe it was 36 points, and they were 11 for 22 from 3. They were 1 for 14 from 2, 1 for 2 for 4 or 5, something like that from the foul line. So, we see a lot of teams shoot it. We kind of give some rules. We don't, if you put your heel on the 3-point line, go 2 steps in, that all is the same percentage wise as from behind the line. So, we teach the kids to shoot that shot because we'd rather have, if it's the same percentage, we'd rather have the extra point. And then we go into, just different areas. I mean, we break it down, which are good, better, and best from the 3-point line. And so our kids, everybody, we only had 2 kids on our 13-man roster that didn't attempt a 3 this year. But they all did it within certain rules to their game. And unfortunately, like you said, the mid-range game is kind of, everybody's mentioned that's kind of gone. We spent some time working on it because there's holes there, and there's places to score because people protect the basket real well. And like Coach Nimmo said, teams are defending the 3-point line real well too, and not helping off. I love the 3-pointer. I'm a fan of it. It's designed into our offense, but I also am not just gonna, give every kid in the gym a green light to shoot it whenever they touch it out there either. But yeah, you have to, defensively and offensively, you have to plan and prepare for it.
Jason Jarvis, you going to give 10 guys the green light to shoot the 3 at will next year? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have several kids I think who can shoot it. And Duncan had to open, he had the green light no matter where he was on the court, basically. So, if they can shoot it, yes. There is no mid game anymore. I mean, there's a couple kids. I got one kid that can shoot the mid-range jumper pretty well. But most teams are either shooting 3s or layups, and there isn't much in between. And we'll probably jack up plenty of 3s this coming year.
All right, hey, Ray, I'm gonna defer to you. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to jump right into some questions?
Let's go ahead and jump straight into some questions, and we'll just end on a couple of commercials and whatnot from here. So,
gotcha. All right. Well, I'm looking at the feed now. So the first is from our friend Bill Hammock, and his question is there any chance Misha will drop the dead week due to the time lost from school's closing? I'll defer to the coaching panel here on your opinions for that. So will Misha drop the dead week period due to the time lost from school's closing?
I'm hearing that everything's on the table right now. That they're looking at a wide variety of options, and versus unlimited contact, no dead weeks, but it has to be a bylaw change or at least an amendment. So they'll have to vote on it to make it happen.
Gentlemen, what do you think?
Well, I think that the big thing about it is I think, you're to consider that it's not just basketball that's having to deal with this and over the summer too. So, I mean, you got to think about all the sports and their time frame and, how much time each program or each sport's going to get. I think that takes into a little bit of play too. And these kids are going to be sparingly, they're going to be pushed around a lot and doing a lot of things, but I think kids will be hungry to get back out there and do some things too. So, I'm hoping that Mission makes the most reasonable decision to benefit the kids. And ultimately that's all it's about, making the right decision to benefit all the kids and not just, I'm being selfish and saying basketball, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of kids out there that are not basketball players that, we can try to share amongst a smaller school where we're our kids are doing all three sports or whatever, all three seasons. So I think that makes them a big play too.
Coach Nimmo, are you hearing anything at the state level? Any rumblings from the coaches wanting anything in particular?
I think Ben kind of hit the nail on the head. I think anything and everything's on the table. I think a lot of it's timing. If we're back the 1st of June, then it may be as it has been all along. If it's after that, then I can see the dead week going away.
Coach Jarvis, Coach Miller, anything there? Or you pretty much agree with those guys, or?
Well, if we eliminate the contact days, depending on how much time you have, I'm a football coach too, and football is going to be the next season up. So it's going to be a decision I think each school district's going to have to make on how much time each group gets. Is basketball coach going to get them once a week and whatever? I think there's going to be so many logistic things that are going to have to be worked out. And I think like Coach Nimmo said, it's going to be when it happens, the timing of all this.
Gotcha. Coach Miller?
Timing is going to be a big part. When we know we can get back in the gym, when we know things are going to be able to start, if it's June 1st, if it's July 1st, that's obviously going to change how we're going to be able to do it. From the small school standpoint and from schools that share athletes between the coaches, at whatever point, it's going to be, like you said, a lot of planning things out and making sure that we're using our kids the way they should. And everybody's trying to get as much as they can. I think the kids will be hungry. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made from the state level, obviously, if we're going to have the dead week or if we're going to eliminate contact days. I would assume, like I said, everything's on the table, and that's what I've heard from people I've talked to in the know. But, when that happens, it just depends.
And here's a question from Adam Sims, and I think this is another one that could be a whole show or a slew of shows, really. I know some of the coaches have coached multiple sports during their coaching careers. What are your feelings on specialization? How many multi-sport athletes do you have on your teams? So, Jason, I know that, all of us in small schools have that, but Jason, what are your feelings about that?
Well, that's something we're trying to change at Herky. We're trying to get them to play all the sports. Jordan Duncan, he played baseball and basketball mainly. I could go through a whole list of kids that I have in my program. We got a freshman group that play basically all three sports. Almost every one of them is involved in something every season. So I like the multi-sport athlete. Of course, I coach football too. So I encourage those kids to get involved in all the sports they can.
Everybody, I think all of us would agree with that. Is that a fair assessment that multiple sports are the way to go in high school?
I'm against specialization big time. I think it hurts kids. I had 13 kids on my varsity roster. 12 of them played at least two sports. I had a kid who's Emma Heskett, who's graduating. She played softball and ran cross country in the fall, played basketball in the winter, and played soccer and ran track in the spring. So she lettered 3 years. She lettered in 5 sports.
Oh,
that's awesome!
Awesome. Yeah.
When you've got a young man or a young lady that's thinking about wanting to play a particular sport in college, moving on for that, I would guess that many of you have had this conversation. Coach, should I just stick with this sport because I want to play at the next level, and I'm worried I'm not going to touch the ball enough to be able to do that? Have you had those conversations?
If you're good enough to play in college, you're good enough to, get enough time. Those kids generally have the work ethic to get up in the mornings and shoot or do other times. I mean, that's, they can specialize in college is kind of what I tell them. And then I offered them to kind of sit down and help write out a plan to be able to focus, but still play other sports.
4 years is a really short time period. Mm-hmm. So you better enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah.
I think with what we're dealing with now with, kids missing out on opportunity to even play spring sports, I think specialization is for the birds. The kids don't even have an opportunity this year to play baseball or run track or do anything else in the spring. And like Coach Nimmo just hit nail on the head. I mean, this time is short. So enjoy it, play as much as you can. Obviously, in my opinion, and as I tell all my kids, play all the sports that you can. I mean, I would love for them to be able to just play basketball, but I know what benefits them. And that's playing something in the fall, doing something in the winter, doing something in the spring, and enjoying this time because, this is the best time of their life. So I'm thoroughly against specialization.
We got another question here. It's David Jarvis. I don't know if that's relation to anybody on the panel here.
Oh, boy, my brother. Great.
David Jarvis is chiming in. I think the players also need to learn how to shoot a free throw. I watched a lot more games this year.
Oh, boy.
Free throws, I'm assuming, in comparison to when he was in school. So I think I've mentioned that the last week. My theory that's not based on any sort of coaching problems whatsoever is that the loss in the lack of the mid-range game has also hurt free throw shooting because kids aren't practicing that length of a shot anymore. Coaches, what are you seeing? Do you work on free throws a lot in practice just as much as you always did? Is it going downhill? What's going on?
I work on it. We work on it in practice. He's probably bringing that up because of us. We lost our 7 by 1 point. We shot 11 of 21 from the free throw line. So it may even have been worse than that. It was something like that. And I try to make them game-like. It's hard to make free throws game-like in practice. So I always try to shoot them after we're done running or after we've been practicing for a while. I did this one drill called presser free throws. Put 2 minutes on the clock. I got 4 or 5 guys at every goal. You have to hit 5 in a row, or at the end of the 2 minutes, you're running. And then we do that continuously for about 14 minutes of practice. The problem is kids aren't practicing the free throw outside of practice. And I think back when we were in school, we practiced it a lot outside of practice. And I just don't think they're more shooting threes than anything.
Coach Nimmo, what are your thoughts about that?
I agree with what Coach Jarvis just said. I also think there's a little to be said for kids can either shoot or they can't. Memphis lost a national title game not being able to shoot free throws, and I think it was the more they worked on it in practice, the worse they got shooting free throws. So I do think sometimes the more you focus on something you're not real good at, the worse it becomes. So. And I know that's counterintuitive to what we as coaches think, but when you focus on something you're not very good at, you're not very good at it, it makes it difficult.
I personally, we hammer free throws. We shoot a ton of them. I've had the worst free throw shooting team in school history. My first year, we were 7-19. We lost 11 games by less than 10 points, and we were about 48.9% from the foul line. All the way up to this year, we had the best free throw shooting team in school history, and we had Emma Paulitz and Chloe Akerson were 84 and 81%. So it from the time they're in freshman JV, we shoot tons and tons and tons of free throws. And that's kind of one of our key things. I joke with the kids, if you can make layups, shoot free throws, and defend just a little bit, you can win a lot of high school basketball games.
Seems pretty basic. So
Yeah.
I'm going to end. I think, Ray, I'm going to wrap up with this question because I think this is a good one.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
It's something that we talked about our first week, and we touched on a little bit again last week, and that's that your coaches. I'm an administrator. I'm also a college counselor. We miss seeing the kids and seeing the growth and being part of that, and especially now for our seniors, we're missing those things. And Angie Oshia, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Her question was this: how are you staying connected to your students and checking on their social and emotional health? I'm going to start just because of my multiple hats as an administrator and also a college counselor. We started a lot with the parents, and that's been just asking them to include us as a partner if they're seeing some concerns that they have with their young men, their young ladies, as far as missing the day-to-day at school and what that provided for them, to let us know. And we'd have the teachers do a little more outreach in addition to what they're doing with video for the entire class, but maybe do something individually. Also doing a lot of email, of course, a little bit of texting. That's more with the parents for a number of reasons than anything else. I've been trading emails left and right with students, which is not the same as face-to-face contact, of course, but it's where we're at right now. So we're doing at St. Pius X, doing a kind of a combination of things. A lot of it, though, has just been trying to get the parents to let us know if they're seeing any issues, and also their peers. We're not asking anybody to narc on anybody else, but if somebody's concerned about maybe it's obvious somebody's struggling a little bit without having school in their life every day, what can we do to help out and reach out and things like that. So, but coaches, I think as much, if not more than teachers, you develop a real affinity and a relationship with your players over the course of the time you have with them. So how are you staying connected with your young people? Let's start with Coach Miller.
Well, I mean, I have two hats that I have to play here. I have kids that I coach, obviously, at St. Pius. I have kids that I teach out at Grandview. And, just obviously just trying to get some information out to the kids and send emails out to their parents. A lot of the parents I'm Facebook friends with, or communicate through email or social media, and just try to answer their questions and just really put any of their fears at ease, keep information fresh for them, and then just getting some stuff out to the kids that I coach. And everybody's just kind of on hold, and I just wanted them to know that to try to be positive, try to look at the positive, and that's the most important thing we can do right now. Because if we get into a situation where all we're doing is worrying and looking at the negative, that's when things can really go wrong. Because there's a lot of positives to take away from what's happening right now, even in the midst of all the negativity that we're facing and uncertainty. So that's just what I try to tell them, and just to try to keep their spirits high.
Coach Nimmo, I'll just bounce it around.
Yeah, much the same. We use Remind, sending messages through Remind, and just checking on kids. It's good or bad. I've bumped into a couple of them here and there. One of them at the golf course, and from a distance, just had a conversation, and it was really nice to see the young man in person, actually, rather than just through your phone or what have you. My son's one of our players, so I'm able to keep tabs on some of our guys that way as well. He talks to his teammates through social media and things, so I kind of get to hear about it here and there. But it's hard. It's uncharted for all of us, and even though we're doing stuff, I don't think we're probably doing enough.
Ben, what are your thoughts about it?
So our school has done a great job, again, focusing on relationships. We've taken our class, we've broken them in half. So when I meet with a class for the week, I'm meeting with 10 or 12 kids. It's small groups. We have small group meetings, being a faith-based school. And so we've continued to still do our small groups, and we talk with kids, 2 or 3 at a time. After our small group's over, we just, hey, how's school going? How's things going being at home? Things like that. And so we've got a group chat that our assistant coaches and all of our varsity team is in, and it goes crazy. The kids crack me up. Sometimes they just talk in memes. But we came up with a weird idea the first week of this. And so our school's been living in Google Hangout, and Google Meets. And so the first week of this, we created basketball practice. And so our varsity team gets together once a week on Wednesday afternoons for an hour, and we just talk. And I'm fortunate because my kids all love each other and they love being around each other. And that's from player 1 to player 13 on our roster. And so we just hang out for an hour on Google Hangouts and we play games. My assistant coach is great. She comes up with a game each week for us to play. And so my kids now, or my varsity kids, are starting to make videos for our grade school and our younger kids, just encouraging them and to reach out and to keep that relationship there. So I felt like we've done some cool things, and the kids love doing it. It makes it fun for me. I can still check up and make sure that they're doing good. And I coach golf too, so we've done it a couple times with golf and just talking to the girls that play golf. It gives me a good chance to just check and make sure those kids that you have an extended relationship with are doing well during this uncertainty.
Coach Jarvis?
A lot of my contact has been through Huddle, Twitter. I have Google Classroom also. That's how I connect with my students. And, I've heard from several. Would like to hear from more. I've texted and called a couple that I know that I needed to check on because I knew being away from school would be a bad situation for some of them. And, just trying to keep constant contact. Want them to know that I'm thinking about them and that type of thing.
All right. And let's wrap up. Coach Blair.
Me being the oddball here in this group, not at the school district as a staff member, maybe I have a little less connection. But I think right now, I reach out to the team every week, just asking them how they're doing. Is there anything anybody's enjoying or having a good time with, or something that maybe they're doing that's fun and exciting that they would want to share with their teammates, and some things that they've seen or they want to talk about. And we have a lot of group discussions with that. The big thing, a lot of people know my program, I focus on the family atmosphere, and I really take a lot of pride in that. And so I reach out to those kids and say, hey, enjoy this opportunity with your family. I think that's an important thing. And a lot of these kids are getting some very valuable minutes with maybe some of their parents that they didn't normally get because there's a hustle bustle kind of go atmosphere all the time. I think we're seeing a lot of better relationships being built, and I think it's in a great situation that we need to look at it. And I think that we need to tell the kids, hey, this is an important time for you, especially some of these older kids that are seniors that are going to get ready to go out into to the real world, as I call it, and move on. They're not going to be able to have that relationship maybe one-on-one with their parents or their family members. They're going to move away or whatever. So I take a lot of pride in that. I think the kids are taking a pride in that, and you see it on social media. Atmosphere. You see them, hey, we're hanging out at the house playing Uno, or we're doing something together and just enjoying the opportunity to be together and do those things. So I think that's the big thing for me, reaching out to them that way. And then, we're going to do some things here in the future with the Google Hangout, with just trying to get everybody together and just say, hey, how's things going? Let people talk to each other face to face on this, and just be able to enjoy just having a conversation with somebody besides looking at four walls all day long.
All right, good show, gentlemen. Good times. We're going to throw it back over to our host and overseer and overlord, So, Ray, what do you got for us?
Well, I do. I appreciate everybody watching tonight, and we just wanted to say thanks again. Do us a huge favor, like and share all of our shows. That helps get the word out to folks that may not know about what we're doing here. So we have two shows. We have this show, The Coach's Box, Call Like We See It. We also have, and I'll throw this up here real quick, Main Street Sports with Jeff Whitener and myself. We have Ron Beckley, who is the towel man from the St. Louis Blues. He's at every game. Every time the Blues score a goal, you hear them ring the bell for how many goals they've got. He throws the towel. He's the towel guy. Ron Beckley. He's going to be with us Thursday night, and also Jeremy Boyer, who actually lives right up the street from me here in South County. I didn't realize that until just recently, but we're going to have. He's the organist up at for the Blues games, so we're going to have both of those guys on our show Thursday at 7:00. And before we go, we want to thank so much Vindel Services LLC. If I can get to it, there it is. Vindel Services LLC. Love Vinny, the folks over there at Vindel Services. Vindel Services, Bada Bing Classics, a full automotive repair, collision, and classic car restoration shop. 15% discount on any repair with free pickup and delivery on your car. Located at 301 South Adams in Festus. Give them a call, 636-638-2500. Mention Livestream STL, and they'll give you a free disinfectant on your vehicle as well. So for all of us here at Livestream STL, if you're interested in sponsoring our shows, we'll throw our numbers up here. We are looking for some extra sponsors here and there. Give us a call, 314-852-4398, or you can email us over at livestreamstl@outlook.com. Sponsor with us for Ray Halbrook and all of us here at Livestream STL at the Coach's Box. We're hoping to see you guys Thursday at 7:00 for Main Street Sports. Have a great evening.